Hi everyone. I'm going to talk you through our VLR data tool that we've developed to align UMF indicators or other more context-specific indicators with the SDGs to support the VLR process. Let me share my screen. So you see here our tool, which is essentially an Excel file. And you have a little induction page, and the main tabs then are one tab here, the national level plan, local level plan, and then you have a sheet per SDG. Right at the end, I'm not going to scroll all the way over now, but you'll see it very soon, is then also a sheet that shows all the indicators you have selected and all the indicators you have selected, but you might still need to find some data for. So let's have a look. Throughout the document, there are little boxes that explain to you the step you're at, but I'll also talk you through it now. So initially, one of the first steps of this data VLR process will be to select the indicators you want to include in your VLR. And it can be really handy to review current national, local, or other strategic plans to inform that decision. So what we encourage you to do at these first two sheets is to go through plans and write down indicators that seem noteworthy, that seem like good measures to include in the VLR. There's some examples here. So you would be filling this out. So you might be looking, all right, you're going through this report and maybe it's roughly on the topic area of, let's stick with income, and maybe there's an indicator of income at age 30. You then have here a drop down of all the SDGs, and you can select what this measure would be helpful for. I think I'm going to go for T. And what you get after that is another drop-down menu that now shows you all the SDG indicators that fall under SDG 1. So you see the list here. And then at the bottom, you also see the UMF indicators that fall under SDG 1. And then you have an option for SDG 1 other. So I doubt that there will be an income at age 30 indicator, but we can have a quick scroll. Nope. So we're gonna select for this one, SDG 1 other. We can use this to measure the SDG 1, no poverty, but it doesn't directly correspond with one of the existing. And like this, you just fill out the indicators that stick out for you. And yeah, we've split this up by national level plans. You could, for example, also include things here like the Smart Sustainable City Framework or other more like, national level indicators that you come across. And then we have the exact same sheet, but for local level plans. So these might be plans a bit more specific to your municipality, but the same concept. Name of the plan, rough topic area, name of the indicator, what SDG does it fall into, and then does it relate to a specific indicator, or is it just like maybe SDG other? Well, based off this selection, your indicator will be sent to one of these SDG sheets. So if we have filled out SDG 1 here, they should all automatically appear on this sheet. So let's take a look. Again, there's some boxes here to guide you, but let's take that away for a second and have a look. What do we see here? The first two columns are the SDG target and the SDG indicators to measure that target for SDG 1 in this case. And you then have next to it 2 columns for the monitoring framework. And you will see that some of them are in the same row. Well, if they're in the same row, it means they're essentially measuring the same thing. So in this case, we have the SDG indicator 1.4.1, the proportion of the population living in households with access to basic services. And then next to it, UMF indicator 9, basic services. So these are aligned, and that is automatically done. You don't even need to do anything, and you will see this for all the different SDGs. All the sheets have the same structure. Here, that's quite interesting. There's a couple that aren't directly in line with an SDG, and that means that these UMF indicators are useful to measure the general SDG, but they don't correspond exactly to one of the indicators. Let's go back to SDG 1. Well, if you remember, we filled out one indicator from our national level plans that we called land rights indicator, and another one that was mean income and our income at age 30. And you see that, yes, they were automatically sent to this page and they were aligned with the indicators that we sorted them into. And you can see that our little income age 30 indicators at the bottom here, because it can help us to measure SDG 1, but it doesn't correspond with any of the current SDG or UMF indicators in specific. And if we had filled out the local level plans, these would equally just appear in the same row. You can then see some other columns. You can decide, do you want to include this indicator in your review? You have drop-down menus to select yes or no from. And then you also can select whether the data is available. Yes, it's partly available. You might have to do some computations, or it's not yet available. And then you have the available to fill out a data source. For example, the scale might be local, the most recent data release, or maybe you have data from 2017 to 2022, something like this. And you would go through the different SDG files for the SDGs that you want to include in your VLR and do just that. Decide, do I want to include it? Do I have data? Where's the data? Well, let's make a little jump forward, because at the very end, we have two new sheets. We have one called Selected Indicators, Data is Available. And you will see that all the indicators for which we ticked, yes, I want to include it, and yes, I have data, or I hardly have data, these will automatically appear here. And we have the SDG number, the indicator, and then if it was aligned with a UMF or other indicator, these would also appear here. And then the data source scale in here that we filled out. So ideally, I guess if you would have done more than the three that we just did, you have this really long list here. And as you fill them out, these two graphs will also update. These are spider diagrams. So the further out something is, the more indicators are included. So if we look at the covered SDGs, well, at the moment we can see it really much points towards SDG 1. Well, we've only included SDG 1 indicators here, so that makes absolute sense. But I guess in an ideal case, you would kind of want a balanced number of indicators for the SDGs that you want to include. And the UMF indicator one here looks a bit funny because we haven't included any UMF indicators. But if we did, you could also see the same kind of spiky shape indicating which domains we currently were covering the most. And you can also update this manually by going to data up here and refresh all. The very last one is then a similar sheet, but for indicators that you want to include, but that you might not have data yet. It would also have the SDG here, the indicator, etc. But at the end, it has a field for you to fill out a plan for how to access the data. So this might be stakeholder consultations, or maybe you want to search the internet, or you have a contact that might be able to help you getting access to this data, whatever it might be. But yeah, so what this tool does, it guides you through the review of existing plans. It aligns it automatically with the SDGs and the UMF. It helps you with the selection of indicators and finding the suitable data sources. And at the end, creates two lists for you that show you exactly the indicators you can include for your analysis in the VLR. And through these diagrams, it's also quite easy to see or do some sort of gap analysis and see what's missing, and maybe see if you need to include something else in a certain bit, or balance it a bit more. And yeah, we think this should save you a lot of time and make the whole alignment process a lot easier. And we hope that you find it useful.